Hello, everybody. Happy Easter, and thank you for joining me today in tonight's webinar, which is focusing really on the withdrawal of the Spanish Golden Visa. Where are we with that, and what are the viable alternatives? Obviously, there are some out there. That's for people who are looking for residency in Spain or residency in Portugal or any part of the EU. What is the best alternatives now that we know the Spanish Golden Visa is gone? So what I'll do, we've got a few people joining us as I speak. I'm just going to share my screen whilst they join us, and then we can get started. Here we go. So you should shortly see the slideshow on the screen. Okay, here we are. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just do a bit of the housekeeping to start with. So as I say, what we're going to look at is following the withdrawal of the Spanish Golden Visa, what are the best and most viable alternatives that can ultimately give you residency in Spain, residency anywhere in the EU. So we'll cover that today. My name's Sam Daynes. I'm one of the senior managers here at Holborn Assets. On the screen there, you've got my WhatsApp and phone number. As you can see there, it's 447969059122. That is a UK number, but I'm not based in the UK. I'm based here between Spain and Portugal. We've got an office here in Spain and an office in Portugal. So I'm down the south of Spain today. I'll be traveling over to Portugal in the next few days. Our office in Portugal is in the Algarve. The office here in Spain is down towards the Malaga region. So it's probably about 3.5 hours between a drive between the two offices. Nice drive too, which is via Seville. So very nice. You've also got my email there, which is sam.danes@holbornassets.com. Do make a note of that, because I think when we go through everything today, there inevitably be questions for everybody. They've got individual situations. So by using my email, you can ask me those questions. You can also arrange a free financial consultation. So we offer free consultations so we can go through your situation and really see what would be best for you. You can also find me on Facebook, on Instagram. You can also find me on YouTube as well. I do regular webinar videos on there, and that the handle for that is @WorldCBI. So @WorldCBI. So you can find all my videos on there as well. And in a move to kind of go with technology here, I've also put a QR code there, and if you scan that with your phone, it will access my diary. It will see what I have free, and you can book yourself straight in. So that makes it a little bit easier. But whatever's easiest for you, do it. So make a note of my email, make a note of my WhatsApp, my phone number, and obviously use the QR code too. So let's get started and start to discuss a little bit about what we're going to go through today. So the first thing I want to go through is a little bit about who we are. So who are Holborn Assets and who are Holborn Pass? Now, Holborn Pass, which I'll come on to, are part of Holborn Assets, and I'll explain how the two work together. So I'll talk a bit about us and how the two link together. We'll also talk a little bit about residency by investment and what exactly does that mean? Because there is residency by investment and there's something called citizenship by investment. And if you're not familiar with the two words and the differences that has, I'll talk you a little bit through that, because it is quite important. Residency is slightly different from citizenship, and normally with residency you can turn that into citizenship, but I will go through that and make sure you understand that. Then, very importantly, we will look at the latest news on the Spanish Golden Visa. So what exactly is happening to the Spanish Golden Visa, and where are we at the moment? You know, what point are we at? Can you still do it? Is there any options available with that? So I'll discuss that. And then we'll look at what the best alternative options are. And this is a bit of a spoiler here, because I've already put in there, it's the Portugal Golden Visa Programme, Portuguese Golden Visa Programme. It's a very unique programme, and it's always actually been the most popular one in the EU, even more so than Spain, because there's a number of little intricacies that the Portugal Golden Visa Programme has that makes it really useful for anybody looking to live in the EU, not just in Portugal, although Portugal is obviously a lovely place to live as well. So I want to talk you through why that might be the case, and particularly people who have found us here through maybe looking for the Spanish Golden Visa. I want to explain why the Portuguese one really might be the better option for you anyway. We've dealt with a number of clients where we've initially spoke about the Spanish Golden Visa, but actually on looking at what they're wanting and the flexibility they're wanting, it's actually better for them to do the Portuguese one. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll look at the process and the benefits of the golden visa scheme. So how, you know, what's the process? How long does it take? What benefits does that ultimately give you, not just in Portugal or Spain, but in the EU? We're giving an example of some investment options that you have, because there are lots of different options that we do and that are available out there. And there are different price points as well. So we'll come on to that. There's actually some very low cost options, and there are some higher cost options. So I'll talk a little bit through that. And then if we have time at the end, we will do the questions and answers. If not, obviously, again, you've got the QR code there that you can scan and book yourself into my diary. Alternatively, you can drop me an email and I'll put my email address at the end. And also anyone that's registered for this webinar through Spain Guru or through whatever site you found us, we'll send you a copy of the video as well, and we'll send you a link so you can book yourself in as well if you miss it on here. So let's talk a little bit about us at Holborn Assets. You know, exactly who are we, what do we do, and how, what has brought me in front of you today. So Holborn Assets itself. So Holborn Assets, we're a global wealth management firm. So we were established back in 1998. So we're going a long time now, over 25 years, so a long time. A British family firm. We still are a British family firm, but we've now grown in size to have well over 500 employees, and we have over 20 international offices now, so including one here in Spain and one over in Portugal. So we have people on the ground to help people looking for the golden visas for their investments. And we've grown to the point now where we have around 25,000 clients all around the world. Now, the idea of being a wealth management firm and a global wealth management firm is that we're fully regulated and authorized to provide advice in all jurisdictions around the world, not just Europe. So where that particularly helps us is when we're looking after clients, which people do now, they move from one place to another, we're able to continue to giving them advice. Particularly people in the UK would be aware, if you're in the UK, for example, you get financial advice and you move outside of the UK, the advisors in the UK are not regulated to continue to give you advice. You have to find a new advisor. But the way that we've done it is to really overcome that problem and allow us to advise people anywhere that you go. So that's the wealth management side. But with regards to doing the golden visa programs, around 7 years ago, it became very clear that a lot of our clients were after investment options that would also give them global mobility benefits, because with regards to these golden visa programs, the idea is that you invest money into a particular country, and in return that will give you residency or citizenship of that country, and ultimately that gives you global mobility benefits to move around the world. But where this really suited us as a company is that obviously we've been around for over 25 years. And for us, investment is a priority. It's not just about getting somebody a golden visa or getting a residency or citizenship that they're looking for, but it's actually to prioritize the investment itself. And because we've been going such a long time, we actually have very exclusive investments aren't available anywhere else. So we have certain price points that are lower than what you'll be able to do elsewhere. And we have certain funds and certain investments that are exclusive to us. So much so that in 2023, we did over 300 Portugal golden visas, and we were the #1 agent for Portugal and last year. So we did more golden visas in Portugal than anybody else. And that's really because people trust us with regards to the investment side of it. And we have a 100% success rate. So every application that we've done with every client has gone through. We know what we need to do to get these cases through. We've got a fantastic back office structure here where we've basically been there and done it. People like myself, I've moved over to Spain about 6 years ago. I'm fully qualified financial advisor, but now I move between Portugal and Spain. Obviously, I have to get the residency myself. My colleagues that work in Portugal as well, they've had to go through the same thing. So we're very familiar with what it takes to get everything through. And because of this, because of the way we work, we won numerous industry awards. You can see on the right-hand side there, various international awards, global awards, which we do win on an annual basis. We've got an excellent rating on Trustpilot as well, which is really important because obviously that's what our clients think about us. So you know that you're in safe hands when you're working with us. So essentially, a wealth management firm, and around 7 years ago, started Holborn Pass. And the idea of that is to get you the best possible investments in order to get you the golden visa of your choice. Now, we don't just do Portugal and Spain, we do all the different golden visa programs for Malta, for Greece, for Dubai, for the USA. But obviously today what we're focused on is Spain, what's happening with that, and ultimately the best EU alternative, which is Portugal. So in terms of what we do, so this is very important as well. I know it's a busy slide here, so you don't have to go through every part of this. But what we do essentially is we try to act as a one-stop shop for everybody that is using us. So we do the whole process. So from our point of view, it's about finding what are the very best investments for any given program. We do all the due diligence on these investments. We make sure that they are safe, that they are good investments, that they're offering good returns, depending on what different options we're looking at. So we take that worry out. We do all that for you. We do all the signings, or all the paperwork for you, all that sort of side of things. We open you a bank account. So in the case of Portugal, that would be a Portuguese bank account, but in Spain, that would have been a Spanish bank account. Or if you're wherever you're going to be around the world, we can do that for you. So we essentially get power of attorney for you. You sign a power of attorney to us. We can open you the bank account. We can get you your tax numbers as well. We will get you the golden visa card. We will get that delivered to you. On some of these programs, you have to do biometrics tests where you have to go in. So this is sometimes where you physically have to go to the country. Most of this process, you don't physically have to go to, for example, Portugal or Spain. We can do it remotely by a power of attorney. There's normally one point that you do have to do this, and that's when you give your fingerprints and do your biometrics, which you need to get your physical card. I've had to do the same thing myself. We will accompany you and do all that for you as well. We can even help you submit your tax returns. We can get you your citizenship and your passport as well towards the end, depending on what program it is. So essentially, without reading that all the way through, it's the whole process. We do everything for you to take the stress out of it. If you try to do something like this yourself using lots of different people, it becomes very difficult, particularly from a time perspective, for different organizations talking to each other. So we've got all the contacts already in place to provide that full service for you. So we are a one-stop shop for the process. You've also got my QR code there again. So again, you might want to scan that and see what the availability is in my calendar. So let's talk about citizenship and residency by investment. So quite simply, a lot of people refer to this to golden visa schemes in various different names. But essentially, what you're doing here is in return for investing into a foreign country's economy, and that's either by real estate, by a donation, tends to be less popular because it's not an investment itself, through investing in a business, through investing into investment funds or to investment bonds. By doing this, you will actually get residency or citizenship. Now, depending on what program we're looking at, they all have different things that you can do and different minimum amounts to qualify for the golden visa. You have the idea option, or not the option, with some schemes will give you residency by investment. So basically, as I said, in exchange for a contribution in any of those above that I just mentioned, you will get a residency permit, and that gives you the right to live and work and retire in that particular country. It gives you the right to healthcare, gives you a right to pension. It's essentially what I've got. I haven't got mine with me at the moment, but it's basically a residency card, and on there it will say that you're a resident, you're a permanent resident, and with that card, you have the right to do anything as if you were a normal citizen living in that country. So most EU programs are residency programs. But what actually happens once you become a resident, once you've got that card for a certain period of time, you can then exchange that to become a citizen. And a citizen essentially is being a passport holder. So you hold the passport of that country. So that gives you the right to things such as voting and various other things. It doesn't make too much of a difference to a lot of people being a resident or citizenship or citizen, sorry. But where it does make a big difference, particularly in the EU, is once you've got a passport, you are a citizen, say, of Portugal or Spain, that passport then gives you complete freedom of movement throughout the EU. So you then have the right to live and work and retire in in 27 Schengen countries. So you're able to, for example, if you had the Portuguese passport, you're able to go and live and work in Spain or Italy or France or wherever that may be. And you don't have any restrictions on the amount of time you can spend in any country. So becoming a citizen is a really big thing. It's like having, for example, the Portuguese passport. It's like having 27 passports in one because you have that freedom. As a resident, you can stay as long as you like within that particular country, but the movement, although you can move with a residency card freely around the Schengen zone, you still would be restricted by rules such as a 90 and 180 day rule. So that's sort of a brief overview. some programs outside the EU, they can be citizenship programs, whereas they will actually give you a passport straight away. But that's not the doesn't have the EU connection that a lot of people here will be looking for. So these are the different programs that we do. Very complicated, busy slide, but you don't need to pay attention to most of this. But just to sort of clarify what this all means. Here on the left-hand side, these are citizenship programs. So you've got Antigua, St. Lucia, Dominica, Grenada, St. Kitts, Vanuatu, Malta, and Turkey. So in exchange for various different amounts, donations, investments, which are shown on here, you can get a passport of that country. Okay, so again, we do a lot of these, and they are relatively popular. But what we're concentrating on today, and is the most popular by a long way, are these options here. We've got Malta, Portugal, Greece, USA, obviously outside of Europe, Spain, and the UAE. Now, with these, what I'm going to do is just concentrate on Spain and Portugal for now, just to give you a brief overview. So here with Spain here, so we're going to talk about whether you can still do the Spanish program. We just want to talk about how that worked, really. So when you're a resident, as I was mentioning before, of Spain, you can convert that residency into a citizenship, so into a Spanish passport after 10 years, as you can see at the top here. So the top column here in Spain, it takes 10 years to convert, to make that residency into a citizenship. Now, if you are from an ex-Spanish colony, so places that such as Brazil, Mexico, there's lots on the list, Costa Rica, all that sort of thing, then you can actually get your passport in a shorter amount of time. So you can actually get it within only 2 years. But for the majority of people, it's actually 10 years before you can then convert that into a Spanish passport. The minimum investment for Spain is, or should I say was, because we'll come on to that, 500,000 euros. So that's how much you had to invest. And that could be into property. There were different options, but the most popular by far was property. So if you invest 500,000 or more into whether that's commercial or residential property, you'd qualify for the golden visa. And in addition, on your application, you can include children up to the age of 18. You can include dependent parents that were over 65. So there was lots of ways you can essentially have an application with lots and lots of different people on it for one investment amount of 500,000. But as we know, the Spanish golden visa is going. So we'll talk about whether it's available or not, but obviously that there's not much time left, which we will cover. So what we need to do is look at what is the best alternative for people if you're, now that the Spain one's not going to be available. And as I say, I'll mention what's actually happening with that. Now, by a long way, and I mean a long way, the best option is Portugal, even for people that are ultimately looking to go to Spain. Now, I'll try to explain briefly on this slide why, but then it'll become clear in the next few slides as well. So where Portugal straight away is a little bit more convenient than Spain is after only 5 years of having a residency card, so getting your golden visa, if you like, after 5 years, the Portugal one can then be changed into citizenship. So unlike Spain, you don't have to wait 10 years. You can do it after only 5 years. So 5 years, you've held that residency card, you then can become a citizen. But what makes it particularly unique and particularly popular is during that 5 years, unlike Spain, your minimal stay requirement is only basically is 1 week per year. It's done in a slightly different way, but basically it's 1 week per year. So all you have to do is go on holiday to Portugal 1 week per year, which obviously isn't the hardest thing to have to do. By doing that, you don't have to become tax resident in Portugal. You can carry on living where you are living. But in 5 years of doing that, you can then change your residency to citizenship. So you can get the Portuguese passport, as I say, which is like having 27 passports in one. So it's really good from that point of view. Spain was a little bit different. You had to become tax resident for the last 5 years. So that means spending over half the year in Spain. You don't need to do that with Portugal at the moment. Now, we know there are elections coming up in Portugal this year because the government has essentially crumbled. So we don't know if there will be changes to the golden visa scheme. But as it stands at the moment, it's 1 week per year, the equivalent of 1 week per year. Over that 5-year period, you need to spend physically in Portugal. You need to hold the asset, which I'll come on to, which we'll talk about. And then at the end of the 5 years, you can sell the asset because you don't need it anymore because you'd have the passport. So it's really good from that point of view. Furthermore, again, very busy slide here, but furthermore, you can actually include your children up to the age of 21 and anyone in full-time education, even if they're over 21. So if they're at university, you can still include them. You can have dependent parents included on there as well. So similar to Spain, if you've got parents you want to put on there, as long as we can prove that they're dependent, then yes, we can include them. That's relatively easy to do, believe it or not. But yeah, just be aware of that. Then you've got visa-free access to 189 different countries, complete freedom of movement through the Schengen zone. And once you've got your passport, then essentially you can live, work, and retire anywhere in the EU, not just Portugal. So it works out very well for people that were looking for Spain. So what we do is we go more specifically into what's happening and what do we know is happening to the Spanish golden visa. So let's well, no, actually, sorry. First of all, we look at the benefits of the EU passport because this is, I suppose, very important in terms of getting the Portuguese passport. That would give you the right, as I mentioned, to live in any of the 27 EU Schengen countries. So you've got that passport after 5 years. You can retire in any of them. You can work in any of them. You can study in any of them. So your children can study. So you can have one application, for example, for the Portuguese golden visa, and you can have, I mean, we've done one, I think had about 9 or 10 different people on there. There was a lot of people on one application. So it was one investment amount and you got the whole family on there. And then they're all ultimately going to get an EU passport after 5 years. All they have to do is spend 1 week per year for that 5 years in the country. And you can open a business in any of these countries and you've got your visa-free travel, as I mentioned before. So an EU passport is really, really desirable, as you can imagine. Now, this is really what I think some of you might be tuned in for. And unfortunately, not great news is what exactly is happening with the Spanish golden visa. Because we know, obviously, it's going. We knew on the 3rd of January that was announced officially, as you can see in 2025, that the law had been passed. It had to go back and forward. It started last year and eventually they agreed that it was going to be taken away on the 3rd of January. But in Spain, you have to give it a 3-month notice period. So it officially came in on the 3rd of April. So basically it's gone. That was 3 months after they published it. So now essentially the Spanish golden visa option has gone. Now, that's not just for property, that is for any form of the golden visa. So before you could invest into making a donation to the government, there were various other routes, but they've all gone. Now, what actually happened to Portugal, just interestingly, is Portugal a couple of years ago changed their golden visa scheme and everybody thought it was going to be withdrawn, but it wasn't. They just removed property as an option. With regards to Spain, they've not done that. They've gone the whole hog and thought, no, we're gonna get rid of it completely. Obviously, the reason I say obviously, but the reason for that was the perception of the effect that was having on the housing market and on the economy. That's why we thought possibly they would just remove property, similar to what Portugal did a couple of years ago. But no, they've removed the whole lot, and it's now officially gone. So as of pretty much last week, it's gone. So it's now too late to submit any applications for the Spanish golden visa, and this is why we will concentrate on the best alternative in Portugal. But after this date, no further applications can happen via any route. The good news for anybody watching this that's already submitted their application because they had the asset, they had the property, then that will be honoured as long as, and it will be protected under the current conditions to which they were signed up. So in the case of Spain, if you had a 500,000 property, you can renew that every 5 years and you can keep hold of your golden visa. And after 10 years, you can convert that into a passport should you so wish. And you can just keep renewing that golden visa application indefinitely. You don't have to become a citizen. So bear that in mind. It's not available now, the Spanish golden visa. So this is why we're saying to people that if you're interested in Spain, Portugal probably is going to be your best option, but you do need to be aware of the elections coming up this year. We really, really don't know what will happen. We really don't. But we know that sometimes a new government coming in, which is what happened with Spain, led to the withdrawal of the golden visa. Now, I don't think that necessarily happened with Portugal because they've actually made some improvements in the processing for Portugal. So I think it's unlikely that they're going to suddenly withdraw it. But I think things such as that 1 week rule in order to get the citizenship, that might change because they might want people to stay there longer. So the benefits at the moment are very good, very, very good for the Portuguese one. And if you've already signed up at a point, they will honour what you're signed up to. But what we're going to concentrate on is what's best. And this is what I say. Some people look at Greece. Some people look at Malta, but can absolutely assure you the best option to go for is Portugal. So when we say why Portugal, well, there's a number of reasons in terms of the country itself. It's voted the most welcoming country for expats. It is actually very noticeable when we come here. We go across to the office in Portugal from our office here in Spain, and the people in Portugal are incredibly friendly. I'm not saying they're not in Spain, but you particularly notice it in Portugal. They are. So it's a very welcoming country, very peaceful country as well. The Global Peace Index voted the best retirement destination. Obviously, you've got the weather. I mean, I go to the Algarve a lot. It's an absolutely stunning place, the Algarve. It's got the 12th best public healthcare, 16th best education system as well. So it's a very good country to live in. But bear in mind as well with Portugal, as I'm saying, people looking at the Portugal Golden Visa, it really is a good access for EU citizenship, which ultimately gives you residency in any of the 27 Schengen countries. So that's really why we're sort of focusing on it today. The Golden Visa scheme itself in Portugal started back in 2012, so it's been going a long time. Spain started in 2013, and as I said, we saw changes to this back in 2023, when essentially property was removed as an option for the Golden Visa. So you used to be able to own a property of 500,000 or more. It changed over various years, but ultimately, if you had that property of 500,000 or more, you'd qualify. They've got rid of property as an option in Portugal, and I'll come on to what the other options are, but it's still there at the moment. And it's actually way more than this now, because this slide was done a while ago. There's been way in excess of 15,000 Gold Visa applications approved. And then these applications themselves mean that there's over 27,000 people, because that includes family as well. Most people will at least put on a spouse and a child, or a dependent, sorry. So as I say, you can do applications for literally as many people as you can have on there, as long as they fulfill the criteria that they are dependent parents or dependent children. The first citizenship was granted in 2018. So the reason we put this in is because if you imagine the scheme started back in 2012, so people started their applications then. They got their Golden Visa card, and then after 5 years, obviously they can then convert that to citizenship. So this has already started happening, and this without people living in Portugal. So as I said, 1 week a year you had to go there, and now these people that started back in 2012 to 2013 have now got their Portuguese passport. It's raised over 6 billion in foreign investment for Portugal. So it's been a really successful scheme for that point of view. Any non-EU citizen can apply. You've got to have no criminal record. Minor criminal offences aren't so much of an issue, but obviously you've got to bear in mind it is no criminal record. So what we do is when we do the paperwork for everybody, they will ask for a copy, going back 5 years for your police records, so an FBI check-in in the US, or whatever country you've been in. It will just to make sure that there isn't any serious criminal offences on there. But as I mentioned, you can include your spouse, your children, and your parents on one application, and then you can all have a Portuguese passport in 5 years with only having to stay there 1 week per year. So you don't have to become tax resident. You can even stay in the country that you're in at the moment. So this works out really well for people maybe thinking, whether it's Spain or Portugal, wherever it may be, you might be thinking, well, I don't want to move over there for a number of years because I'm not retiring for 5 or 10 years. Well, this is a way to almost get the clock ticking now. You get the asset, get the clock ticking, and then in 5 years you can apply and get your passport. So as I say, the benefits of Portugal is you have the right to live and work. You can freely travel amongst all the 27 Schengen countries. This is not the passport. This is when you've got the Golden Visa card. You can establish a business in all of the Schengen countries too. You could potentially benefit from the 10-year NHR, the non-habitual tax regime. Now, it was actually a lot more appealing a number of years ago, but Portugal got rid of the NHR, but they've replaced it with NHR 2.0, which is a little bit more strict on who will qualify for this, but it does give you substantial tax benefits if you do. We do have a team of people that can help with tax if it's something you're looking to do in terms of moving over to Portugal. But I mean, needless to say, it's good, NHR 2.0. It just doesn't it doesn't affect everyone. Not everyone can get it, but it might apply to yourself. But as I say, you don't have to become tax resident anyway in order to get the passport. So, but it's something to bear in mind. And you get access. This is with your Golden Visa card. You've got access to world-class free healthcare. ranked 12 globally. Education as well for your dependents, for your children, and the pension as well, which is again ranked first globally. So it's a very good pension scheme here. But it's the Portuguese passport that really is what a lot of people look at. So after 5 years, you can get your passport, as I keep saying. 5 weeks physical stay is what you need. Now, I put these little stars in that, just reminding me to tell you, and I've already done this, but it's in terms of the elections coming up this year. Do bear in mind, if it's something you're interested in, it is worth chatting sooner rather than later, because we don't know what changes will be made. I don't think, as I say, I don't know, but I don't think that the golden visa scheme is going to be withdrawn for Portugal. But I think it might be less favourable in terms of the amount of time you need to spend over there, maybe a lot more. So whereas a lot of people don't want to stay over there for long in the early years if they're not planning to live in Portugal, so that may change, and just be aware of that as well. You do have to do a language level test as well, so in order to qualify for the passport. It's relatively simple, and it's not necessarily a sit-down exam. They've changed it now so you can do sort of modules, coursework. You basically enroll on the course and you can do that. And you could do that any time within the 5 years. You don't have to wait to the moment you want to get your passport. You can do that any time within the 5 years. So it's not a difficult thing, but do bear in mind you would need to do that in order to get the passport in the 5 years. Portuguese passport is actually ranked the fourth best passport in the world in terms of what access it gives you to globally. You know, the visa-free travel to over 187 different countries is pretty impressive. And then moving throughout the EU Schengen area with, you know, unrestricted and being able to work in these different countries is a fantastic benefit as well. So yeah, 187 countries visa-free, and you can live and work anywhere in the EU, including Spain, where I am now, with your Portuguese passport as well. So really great from that point of view. Now the timeline for the Portugal Golden Visa. Now it's important to say this. So, and I will say this at one point. So basically, one of the problems that the Portuguese Golden Visa had, and I say had because it's now improved and getting better and will be gone, is that it was a huge backlog. As you can imagine, a lot of people thought, no, this is, you know, this is a really good, this is something I want to do. It's really, really good. It's a really good program. But because of that, so many applied, and ultimately there was a huge backlog in applications. Now, the Portuguese government saw this because what was actually happening is it was actually taking people a number of years to actually get their golden visa card. In itself, which was ridiculous because you know you wanted to have it quickly. Obviously, you get processing times, but it shouldn't take that long. So it did take a long time. Now, the first thing that the Portuguese government did is to say that your 5 year period, so 5 years to get your citizenship, doesn't start from when you physically get the card. So if it did take a long time, it doesn't start from then. It starts from when you apply for the card. So it's essentially when you have the asset. That's when your 5 years would start from. So that made it a little bit better for people because you can imagine if it was taking a year or 2 years to get the residency card, and then your 5 years started from there, then you're talking it was potentially 7 years, not the 5 years that you know people wanted to have the passport in. So that was the first thing that was done. And then at the end of last year, they'd done a complete overhaul of the whole process for the Portuguese Golden Visa. So they've got a new overseeing body in. They've increased the staff by 50%. They've gone from paper-based, which is quite crazy in this day and age, but they've gone from paper-based to being electronic. And basically, I've got a commitment to clear the backlog by June this year. Now, whether it will be June or a little bit later, time will tell. But needless to say, it's a lot less than what it was. It's a lot better than what it was. So this is really what you're looking at now. So if somebody wanted to do this, wanted to do the Portuguese Golden Visa and then ultimately get your passport, that basically we'll get the qualifying investment sorted. And I'll give you some examples of that shortly in terms of different options that we have that we can do for different price points. But you get your qualifying investments, and that can take about 3 months to go through. Okay, because obviously all the paperwork that's needed, we need to get you a tax number, we need to open your bank account, we do all this remotely, we need to do the power of attorney, we need to get the police checks, all that sort of thing. So it takes around 3 months to get that part done. Now, once you've got that part done, we apply on your behalf for the golden visa. Then within the year, you've got your golden visa approval. Okay, so you've got that approval and it's valid for 2 years and you can renew it in 2 years. So every 2 years, you just renew that. The renewal costs have gone down. They are very little now. That used to be another problem. The renewal costs for the golden visa every 2 years was quite high. It's not anymore. Again, the Portuguese government are really trying to encourage people to invest. So they brought that down to you're talking hundreds. You're not talking anything more than that. So it's very cheap. So every 2 years, you can renew your golden visa card. And then in year 5, you can then make the application to the Portuguese authorities for citizenship to get your passport. We would do that on your behalf as well. So it's not something you physically have to do. So we can talk you through that. And obviously we need to make sure you do your, which we can enroll you in, but you need to enroll into a course for, for the language, that side of things. And then essentially in year 6, you would have your passport, your EU passport. You've then got the right to travel freely throughout Europe. So from that point of view, it's fantastic. It's it's what the end goal for a lot of people. So the process is quick now. Obviously, once you've got the residency card, the golden visa card, you're free to move freely around the EU, but you'll still be restricted on times. But obviously, you can stay in Portugal for as little as long as you want. So it's a very simple process. As I say, we do everything for you as well. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So we know, obviously, that you cannot include property as part of the golden visa, whereas before you can invest 500,000 in property, and that was sufficient in order to qualify you for the golden visa. But as I say, 2 years ago, back in 2023, similar to what Spain's done, the Portuguese government looked at the economy and thought, well, no, prices are going up. It's becoming unaffordable in terms of property for people that are living there, for the citizens of Portugal. So they removed that. But what they didn't do is they didn't remove other options. Now, I'll bring you back to what I said right at the beginning of this, that we're an investment firm. We're first and foremost, and we've been around, as I say, 26, 27 years. We're an investment firm. So we're now looking at what are these other options that you can do in order to qualify for the golden visa, and which is the best one and the safest one and the one with the best investment potential. First option you've got is if you've got a business and you create at least 10 jobs in Portugal, that would qualify you. Now, the problem with that is it's quite hard to start a business and create 10 jobs for a period of time. So unless you've got a business already, it's certainly not something we would be able to do. It's something that might be applicable to some people, but not for us. But again, that's one way you can do it. The next is you can invest a minimum of 500,000 euros into research activities. Now, this tends to be less popular, as you can imagine, because this actually isn't an investment as such. This is basically you giving a donation to the government. So it's not so popular, but you can do it that way if you wanted to. For a smaller amount, you can donate a minimum of 250,000 to arts, national heritage and culture. But again, it's not an investment. This is essentially a donation. So again, less popular, but it's certainly less money than the research activities. So we have seen people do it, this option as well. But what we're looking at as an investment firm is what other options do you have that are safe, that are secure, that can get you a good return? So the other ways we can do this, and we can do it by either one, but I'm going to concentrate on number 5 because that's the one there are lots of options for, but we do number 4 as well. So number 4 is you invest into a venture capital fund. So you've got to put at least 500,000 into it's basically an investment fund. So it's an investment fund that's based in, I think 60% of the holdings of that fund have to be invested directly into Portugal. There's around 35 qualifying funds at the moment. And we can access them, so we can talk you through what funds are available. But you have to be very careful because some of these funds have ongoing charges, they have exit penalties. And for a lot of people, when you're looking to get your passport in 5-6 years, you want to be able to get out of the investment because you no longer need it anymore. So you don't want to have all sorts of penalties. You don't want to have high charges. So there are available funds there, and we can certainly go through them with you as well. So we have access to those funds. And I'll go on to some examples of these. The ones we're finding the most popular at the moment are a capital transfer of a minimum of 500,000 for the reinforcement of share capital of a Portuguese company, with a maintenance of at least 10 job positions for a minimum period of 3 years. So this is essentially not something you don't go out and find. We found a number of different companies, and they tend to be in hospitality companies, which I'll come on to, where they're encouraging investments. Now they will maintain 10 job positions for your investment amount, And they will do that for the 3 years. So you don't worry about that. That will qualify you. But where this is really interesting, you can do it for a lot less than 500,000. And there's various investments that we found that we can do, and I'll explain them in these coming slides. You can actually, the starting point for this is 168,000 you can qualify, but that wouldn't suit everyone, that particular option, and I'll come on to what that is. But it's this very cheap way of doing it. It's even cheaper than the 250,000. So we can do it for 168,000, but it's not something that's so much of an investment, and I'll come on to that. But some of the other options, you can do it for as little as 325,000 euros by having rental income and income paid up front as part of the contract. And I'll come on to some of the different options, and obviously individually we can talk through it with people. But here's probably our most popular one at the moment. And I'll explain the basics. It's a busy slide, but I just want to explain the basics, okay? This is a hotel called the Sol Aqua Hotel and Spa, which is in Albufeira. So that's in the Algarve. I was down there about a couple of months ago. So if you know, the Algarve is incredibly popular, and Albufeira in particular is particularly popular. And there's a Sol Aqua Hotel and Spa, which is a 4-star hotel. It's already built and it's already operational, and it's got 120 units in there. Prime location, it's right between the sea, the beach, and it's right between the town as well. At the moment, it's less than this now because obviously a lot of people have invested in this, but there's 60 apartments, which are 50 square meters, and you've got 60 apartments at 70 square meters that are available. And the investment amounts that you invest into the company are either 500,000 or 550,000. So if you want somewhere a little bit bigger, you can do the 550. If you want somewhere smaller, the 500. But this is where it gets interesting. Okay, so this is a hospitality company that you're investing into. This is the Sol Aqua Hotel you're investing into. But what they would do for your investment is, instead of having to invest 500,000, if you do the smaller one, they will pay compensation income up front to you. So like rental income up front, which is at a rate of 3.37% for 6 years. So in total, 20.2%. So they will immediately pay you 101,000 up front. So you don't have to pay 500,000. The 101,000 will be paid for you. So you actually only have to pay 399,000, not 500,000. So you are essentially investing into something that's paying you interest guaranteed and upfront. If you do the slightly more expensive option, it's 111,000 that's paid upfront to you. So basically means, depending on which option you go for, you either only have to pay 399,000. There are other costs because obviously you've got to pay legals, you've got to do the power of attorney and this sort of thing. But that's not, you're not talking massive amounts. You're talking, this is really the main focus amount you've got to look at. So it's either 399,000, or if you go for the bigger option, it's 439,000. We've even included the option to finance for 50,000 on that. So you can even take another 50,000 off, and that can essentially be paid once at the end of the 5 years, once you essentially escape and you get the passport. So I don't want to over confuse this. I'm trying to just give you sort of an overflow here. So essentially, if you did the financing option as well, you can actually bring it down to 349,000 as well. What there then is, in year 6, when you qualify for the passport, there's a guaranteed buyback of 500,000. So there's no worrying about whether you'll get your money back. It's guaranteed buyback of 500. So you paid your interest up front. You know what you've made. You've made your 3.37, and that's been paid up front. In year 6, it's a guaranteed buyback by the hotel. They buy it back off you. Then essentially they'll buy you out for the 500,000 from the fund, or 550,000 if you've gone for the bigger option. So there's no risk in this. You put your money in, you know you're going to get that return, and you know you get the passport at the end of it. What they do also include, and this is where it gets a bit complicated because this is not really as part of the golden visa, but it's what this hotel would do, is they will also offer property as collateral. So they've got these apartments, there's 60 apartments, and they will offer you that property as collateral. So at the end of year 6, if you didn't want to exercise the guaranteed buyback of 500,000, you can actually just keep the apartment. So if you think the property prices did really well in that 6 years, or 5 to 6 years, you can actually, instead of exercising that guaranteed buyback, you can actually ask to keep the apartment. Furthermore, as well, you've got 4 weeks stay per year. So 1 week in June to September and 3 weeks off peak. So when we're talking about having to stay 1 week in Portugal each year, you can actually go and stay at the property you've invested in free of charge. So you can do that over the period of time. And as I say, 3 minutes from the beach and 3 minutes from the centre. So basically, we can talk this in more detail if it's something you're interested in. But the main points to take from this is that really for as little as around 349,000, you could be into this investment with a guaranteed buyback as well. So there is a low entry point. It's not the 500,000 that I spoke about before. There's some pictures here of where it is. You can see it's right in the centre here, near the front, near the town in Albufeira. So you're 10-minute walk away to the centre of Albufeira, 3-minute ride away as well. You've got Albufeira Beach there, Alamo Beach there, and Pescadores Beach. So again, I've been here a few times. It's really nice, really lovely as well. So it's in a really good location. It's a 4-star hotel. So this is the way that they're getting investment in. They're getting people to invest into their company, but ultimately it's a really good investment in itself, and you get the golden visa and ultimately passport. So yeah, just more pictures of where it is in this particular one. That's what the place looks like. That's an example of the rooms. I won't dwell too much on this. I'm not selling you it for the brochure, but it's just to show you what it looks like. These are nice apartments that are already built and already there. This is another option. So some people might not like Albufeira, like the Algarve, but there's another, the Riverside in Porto. Porto, I was there last month. It's lovely Porto, really nice place. A similar thing. So it's basically you invest by a hospitality investment fund. So that's the 500,000, prime location in Porto, but they do the similar thing. They'll pay you the compensational income up front. So again, it's 399,000 investment. You've got a buyback guarantee in year 6 of 500,000. So they're matching what the other investment are doing. We've tried and tested as many times. It's all we've got legal documents, legal appraisals. So this will qualify you, no doubt, for the golden visa for citizenship as well. Again, you've got the option with a property to keep it as collateral, so you can keep the apartment instead of exercising the guaranteed buyback. This one's not due to be completed until next year, but once it's up and running, you can do 3 weeks stay per year once it's operational. But where it's really good, because when I went down and had a look at this, it's in a fantastic location. It's surrounded by 5-star hotels. You've got the Hilton, the Lodge, and there's also wineries around there as well. So really good position. Again, some people like the idea of the Algarve, the coast. Other people like, Porto is a little bit different. That's just showing you where it all is. Again, if you know Porto, it might make more sense. I don't want to dwell too much on it, but it's a great location in Portugal. So these are two very solid investments you've got there. Another picture is there of Porto. The other option we've got here as well, another example of an option, if you like, works in a very, very similar way, but you can invest in a number of different, as an hospitality investment. So it's a fund where you invest in lots of different hospitality companies all in one fund. Again, it's a 500,000 investment. Again, you can get 101,000 paid up front. So you only have to pay 399,000. And with this one, you can actually get a loan of 74,000. So you can actually only need 325,000, not the 500,000, and also you've got the guaranteed buyback there as well. So that's one other option as well. This is the one that I mentioned at the beginning. This is the lowest you could possibly anywhere get the Portugal golden visa, and this is what we call a financing and walk away option. It's not for everyone. I will stress this, it's not for everyone, but it is really good for some people. So if you've got money tied up and invested elsewhere, you don't want to take that money out to use towards the golden visas for investment. For 168,000, that we basically have it's not a lender, but it's an investor that will invest that money on, you will essentially change your 168,000 to 500,000, invest 500,000 on your behalf for 7 years. You have no investment exposure. You don't make any money. If it makes money, you don't lose any money. The 168,000 is essentially gone. You are paying that for their services. They take on all the risk by investing 500,000 on your behalf, but they will keep the money. They've been doing this for 25 years. Why we've introduced this, it's not one of the ones we do the most of, but what it does do is it helps people that maybe are, want a lower entry point. And even the 250,000 donation we mentioned, this is lower than this. You're talking 80,000 less than that. So it's certainly popular for some people. Gives you a very low entry point as well. So essentially, what you do is you pay 20,000 deposit. We do all the paperwork, everything like that, and then you transfer the balance of 148,000. The lender then deposits 500,000 in your name, and then that then qualifies you for, we can put the application in then for the golden visa. We got the Mercan. I don't want to overdo all these different options, but we do have the Mercan and the Algarve. This is another one that's been quite popular, again for 500,000. With this one, it's a little bit. An IHG hotel, which if you know anything about the area, is very sort of lots of really good hotels within that group. Again, prime location in Albufeira. It's a ready-built property. You have a buyback guarantee. So basically, you pay your 500,000, and it's paid back to you that 500,000 by that developer in 3 stages. So after 30 days, straight away they'll pay you 125,000 back. So if you put 500,000 in, after 30 days you get 125,000 back. Then in year 5 you get 250,000 back, and then at year 6, which is when you would get the passport, you get the other 125,000 back. So again, you get all your money back, your 500,000, but you get it in stages, and you get 1 week stay there per year as well. So it's good. Not as popular maybe as the Sol Aqua, which I mentioned at the beginning. That's by far, I think, the most popular from what we're doing. And we also have other funds. So we've got our hospitality funds, we've got Bitcoin funds, we've got finance and entertainment funds, finance and agro-business funds, AI funds, Oxy Capital funds, IMGA tech funds as well. So there's lots of other fund options as well. All we're trying to be careful of is we're looking a lot of our clients want to have the guarantees and want to know what they're going to get. And this is why we're looking at a lot of investments where you'll be paid the money up front. And that's what the majority of people like. But there are other options with regards to funds. We can go through them with you as well. I'm sort of conscious here on the time. So what I want to say at the moment, yeah, I've got a couple of questions coming in. Yeah, somebody's mentioning here about the elections. So they mentioned before, just be aware of the elections in Portugal. Yeah, because the government will, so the government will change. We know that. And we know that anything's introduced is very unlikely to make anything any better, which sounds very negative, but that really is probably the case. It's not going to make anything better. It'll probably make it a little bit harder, if anything else. So if you take a copy of my QR code there, you've got my QR code. You've also got you've got my WhatsApp on there as well. You've got my telephone number there. You've got the website there for Holborn Pass, holbornpass.com. You've got my own personal website there, which is worldcbi.com. So you've got that there as well. And yeah, make contact. Yeah, keep an eye out. I mean, we'll send you a copy of this video for the people that did register for the webinar. So you've got a copy of that. And then if you've got any questions, just drop me an email across, because it's better to look at your individual situation. It's completely free where we do the appointments for you as well. Please also make a note there, yeah, as I say, of the My World CBI. Where you can actually look at some of my past webinars that I've done as well. So I hope you found that useful. As I say, drop me an email if you want a free appointment. Let me know. We'll send a copy of this out to everyone as well. And yeah, thank you for joining us. I hope you've sort of found it useful.